Smartwatch saturation, Meta kills its Apple Vision Pro competitor, Microsoft reissues recall, and expiring posts. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the new MacVoices Discord, available to all of our MacVoices patrons. Sign up and join in the conversation in your new favorite online group at patreon.com/MacVoices. This I thought was interesting and sort of surprising in both directions. Over a fifth of the world's internet users now own a smartwatch. In some ways, I would have thought it would have been more. In other ways, and I realize there's a qualification there of the world's internet users. But I kind of thought this would be bigger. What was really surprising, though, was the United States came in, I believe, fifth or sixth, with only an ownership rate of 26% among internet users. With, let's see, United Arab Emirates, the Czech Republic, Hong Kong, India, and Poland ahead of us. Now, sometimes it's a very thin percentage ahead of us, but it's still ahead of us. Again, I've turned to the panel because it seems like I feel like I see Apple Watches everywhere. And if it's only 26%, give or take a little bit, then man, that's great news because Apple has a lot of room to grow.
No, which we kind of pretty much knew with the Apple Watch as it is. Their market share is pretty high. They don't share those numbers, but I mean, from what everybody thinks is the amount of people out there that do have Apple Watches, it has grown. So the market is hot. But other countries like UAE is those are also pretty wealthy people too. So a lot more people are probably buying a lot more expensive products. If you think about it that way too, when it comes to that country.
I'm just surprised that. I mean, and again, focusing on wearables.
Yep.
There's a lot of room to grow here for somebody, and Apple seems to be leading the charge at the moment, especially with the proliferation, at least that I see. And I'm just not talking about hanging around Apple people either. I just mean out in the wild. You can look and always recognize an Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, anybody here not have an Apple Watch in this panel? What's that?
Android?
It's a Galaxy.
How could you?
I'm playing with new toys. Okay. And Chuck, this was I read this article with a different lens.
Okay.
First of all, I was frustrated that they didn't give breakdowns of what type of smartwatches. Because I've worked with teachers from these different countries. They come to Kent and they want to get the latest Galaxy. They want, so some of these countries don't have Apple as embedded into their ecosystem. So in the US, you walk around, you see a lot of Apple Watches. You won't see that in Poland. You won't see that in India, although Apple is making gains in India now. United Arab Emirates, yeah, probably because it's considered for certain folks, it's considered kind of a class item. But in most cases, they're running Windows or Android systems. So the smartwatches are not going to be at this percentage rates. It's going to vary from country to country.
A really good point, Marty. I think you just called me an ugly American. I'm not sure, but
no.
If you did, it's okay. It's because you're not wrong. Because I'm going just by the. All right, nobody comment on that.
No, when these teachers come, I want to sell them on Apple products, and they're like, can't use that in my country. So they're interested in other platforms.
Interesting. So that represents a problem for Apple, but also an opportunity. Brian?
Yeah, I was just thinking, amongst our crowd here, that number is 100% or nearly 100% for smartwatches. And Chuck, when you made the comment, looking at maybe 1 out of 5, or in America about 25%, 26%, maybe seemed a little low and a lot of room to grow. I was almost seeing it the other way, saying that actually is pretty high, I think, because when you think of all Americans uh, in their use of smartwatches, I wonder before the Apple Watch, I think watches were they were declining. There weren't a lot of people choosing to wear, timepieces on their wrists, especially when you can just pull out your cell phone and see the time, that type of thing. And to really see how many more people are enjoying smartwatches and something on their wrist that they weren't using before, I think that actually is pretty high. Um, yeah, I just saw it the other way, I guess.
Uh, Brian, that your interpretation is not wrong, and it doesn't mean mine's right. It just struck me. On the other hand, it just happened again yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, where I paid for something with my Apple Watch,
Mhm.
and the clerk behind the counter said, "I've never seen that before." And so, really?
Yeah.
So that would I feel like that would lend toward my interpretation, Brian. But on the other hand, that clerk may never say, "Wow, that's for me. I want to do that," especially
Yeah,
if they're using their phone now.
and I wonder, that's interesting. Yeah, and it's like not as if they wouldn't be interested in it if they saw it. You may have just inadvertently sold an Apple Watch to somebody who saw that and said, "Oh wow, that's really neat. I could use that too." Or if your hands are full and you're going through a turnstile trying to get onto a train, and you can swipe your wrist over it without having to pull out your phone. All those types of things that you may not even realize. Like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that was a thing. So maybe it's more of just educating people on that. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
you may be right. I know I've sold Apple Watches,
Mhm.
not in that particular case, but I know that people have said, because then they start asking questions. Well, I'm not sure I want to put my credit card on the watch, and you try to gently explain them in as few technical terms as possible, that it's more secure than when you're pulling out your plastic.
Yeah, but I don't want Apple having my credit card number. I get that one a lot too.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so you're happy letting everybody else have it. You're happy letting uh, a waiter of unknown background take your plastic in the back room and
Scan
have
my
it for
card and
for have it for 2 to 10 minutes, and then bring it back. But what could go wrong?
Yep. Just like family preferring to send out a check with your checking number and your account number on it, and oh no, because you don't want the internet to get hacked when you're putting in your card number over the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I don't know if it's just me, but for some reason, all of a sudden, I'm finding that a lot more, especially the restaurants, have adopted the little pay terminals,
Mhm.
handheld pay terminals to bring to your table, as opposed to them taking your card. It seems like now, I'd say, for the places that I visit, restaurants I visit on any kind of consistent basis, it's probably up to 70% now, where I never even have to pull out my card.
And oftentimes, Apple Pay is accepted in that way, whereas before, when you're putting a card into the little leather slot, it for them to take away, it was never even an option.
Yeah, good point.
Chuck, your
Yeah.
our EU and UK listeners right now are going, "Oh, bless your heart," in whatever euphemism they use, because while we're sitting here saying, "Hey, there's this new thing we're seeing. Restaurants are bringing out hand terminals to the table, so they don't have to take your card and all that." This is old school outside the United States, and the people in other countries are often shocked and appalled when they come to the United States, and they're expected to trust to be able to hand their card to someone who just disappears.
Jeff, it sounds like it's the inverse of our discussion on our discussion earlier, that what we see in the U.S. is as moving forward is already old school, and what Marty was saying about some of the teachers that come to this country, they don't have the Apple ecosystem, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
Apple's ecosystem has just overall, and I'm doing very broad strokes here, a much higher percentage, deeper penetration in the United States than in most other countries.
Yeah, so Apple, get on that. For Marty and Eric, Meta has reportedly killed its Apple Vision Pro competitor.
Wah, wah.
Okay, well, moving on after that.
I saw this as just a marketing decision. They're like, we know where our pathway is. It's with lower expensive devices. I don't want to use the term cheaper, but with a lower end cost for a device and a gaming. And I think they struggled with the 4K, LEDs, and they struggled with some other things and said, if we're really going to try and build something to chase Apple, that's not our market. So I think it was just a marketing decision that was first driving that. I don't know. Eric and we talked a little bit about this on Vision Profiles last week.
Yeah, they whipped out their recipe card. They counted all of the ingredients, added up the total, and said, "Yeah, we can't even put the parts in a bin, much less assemble it, market it, and ship it for the price point that we
So
want."
they're going to do some. They're going to do some cool stuff with their platform. They already have with the Meta Quest 3. They've done some alterations to the software to run it so it can do some other things based on what's in it. But they're not going to be chasing Apple, and we all agree that Apple's headset is way too pricey, but it has got everything in it, everything that a developer would want. So my guess is the price point will come down and you might see different models of it. There was a discussion that we had about dynamic glassware. So the idea that the lenses that you have to put in a Vision Pro headset could just be a lens that changes whoever has it on based on their prescription. There's an electrostatic way, I guess, of doing that Apple's playing with to either use in Vision Pro or maybe use in some other type of glass setup. So they're going to a different direction in terms of their product development. Meta's just made, I think, frankly, a good decision to focus on what they do well.
So, do you think that, and this is directed to everyone, did they just cede the high ground, the more powerful uses to Apple, or is the high ground too high at $3,500 a pop?
I think you might be looking at it from the perspective you're looking at this from. It does make sense, but I think that there might be a perspective that makes more sense when we're talking about Meta. So for Meta, this is about making sales and having market share. And so when Vision Pro came out, their stance was, look, we can do the same thing but better for less. And so the idea at that point, or the strategy, is pull people in who are looking at the cost of Vision Pro and thinking, wow, that's a lot of money, even though these aren't directly comparable products. And so they were saying, hey, we're going to do this other thing. It's going to be really cool. Now they're not going to do that other thing because, of course, they couldn't do it at the price point they wanted. So now they're continuing with their marketing pitch, which is, we make this really cool product and it lets you do these really cool things, and here's how little you're going to have to pay for it. And they are going to continue to focus on the is it fair to say the entertainment side, whereas Apple is focusing or trying to draw in users from more than just that entertainment side? So Meta is continuing to focus on what they can do well in this space, and driving that message forward. And related to that, I think the announcement of what they were planning on doing was premature and a bad move. However, consumers have the memory of a goldfish. So it doesn't matter that they told us about this really cool thing they're going to do and they're not going to do it. And as a comparison, how many people outside of our echo chamber remember Apple announcing the all-in-one wireless charging pad that was going to do everything no matter where you set your devices on it? And how many people actually remember what it's called? So yeah,
Air
that'll be
power.
fine. There you go, air power.
Yeah.
But we're in the echo chamber. If you mention air power to someone else outside of our echo chamber, they might think it's a different product, or they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Jeff. I don't know. It's just, I mean, and if you're Jeff, if I take your interpretation as I did, if this is going to sound like I'm intentionally trying to twist it and stick the knife in Meta and twist, but so what I hear you saying is they're trying to find a way to admit that they can't compete. That they said they were going to compete for less money, and now we found out we can't. And so we're just going to take our toys and go home and focus on what we think we can do well.
I wouldn't look at it as they're admitting that they failed on this one. I think it's more of their continuing to throw out their marketing speak. And it just so happens the marketing speak that they're focusing on this week is not the thing that they were focusing on earlier. And now we're back to the goldfish memory.
I'm starting to run short on time. So, but this one, I want to bring out, because we've talked about it before, that Microsoft is bringing back their Recall AI feature in October, with some changes that address some of the very harsh criticism it received the first time, not the least of which is that it's going to be off by default instead of on by default. But I still look at this and say, is this really something that anybody wants? Because I haven't seen anybody argue for this except Microsoft. And the panel goes silent on me.
No, I'm sitting here waiting for Dave to just go off, and I wish I had popcorn.
And at least it's beta, so at least get people that are going to be testing it out. You know, good on Microsoft for making sure it's turned off by default, because that was the biggest problem. It was on and people not realizing it, and now it won't be. Is there privacy concerns? Yeah, there probably is. You're still going to probably have some people that are going to complain about it, but like everything with AI, I mean, it's something that for the future. So I can't say really much else beyond that.
Well, the second paragraph, I think it's the second paragraph here. Windows Recall stores snapshots of everything you do on your PC.
Yeah.
Okay, think about that again. Everything you do on your PC. Do I want a record of everything that I do on my PC available to anybody, maybe, but especially Microsoft?
How about to yourself?
Well, you're not wrong, Web. I mean, and the world that Dave and Webb and I live in, I mean, this is going to be an attorney's. I mean, they're going to go crazy over this because they will be able to subpoena everything that you did on your PC.
Yeah, depending on the case, your whole what are they calling it? Invasive memory tech? No, that's not it. But everything that's in there could potentially be subpoenaed depending on the case. And holy crap, I can only imagine law enforcement agencies are practically having aneurysms right now because they're so excited about this as a potential evidence tool. And I'm not saying that in a negative way towards law enforcement agencies, but from their perspective, the forensic investigations that they have to do would be so much easier if they had access to the content that's in that whole snapshot database.
Yep.
I bet there's companies that have already been internally testing their forensic tools that sift through that data.
In other words, sharpening their knives.
Potato, potato.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I can absolutely understand some of the benefits to it because there was an experimental device, and we talked about this before way back, that was supposed to be kind of your second brain. And that was before a lot of the privacy discussions that we've engaged in here took place. But now all of a sudden it's just like, man, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine any company wanting to turn this on.
Yep.
So.
Well, also, I'll give a final comment here. You also have to have a Copilot plus PC hardware in order for this to work. So that's one of the newer technology laptops that are out there. I haven't got my hands on one yet, but they're that's a whole new world right there. So I mean, the audience is going to be somewhat limited, but there are a lot of people that have been buying those up because Microsoft has some good deals on. I think you've got a Surface for $1,000. So
yeah. As I got to jump out, but I got to bring one more to the table here real quick, and that is the exact opposite of that. The Threads, which doesn't make any sense to me, which Threads is testing disappearing posts that expire after 24 hours.
Do I smell Snapchat?
So
yeah,
on one,
this could
go
this
ahead,
could go
Marty.
in a really bad direction. I mean, it does feel like Snapchat.
Well, so here we have one company wanting to preserve everything in screenshots. Here we have another one wanting to disappear posts in what did they say? 24 hours.
Evaporate, yeah.
As if they will really evaporate in 24 hours. You know,
that's Meta that wants to do this?
Well, you know. So I mean, it's just, I feel like some of these companies are schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Because Meta seems to want to gather up everything they can possibly find. So forgive my skepticism, but do you really believe that they're going to delete my post, whatever it is, regardless of topic, after 24 hours?
They'll
or is it going to be
from view?
From view, yes.
From your view.
Until I do a screen capture, then it's there forever.
Yeah. If it's on the internet, it's there forever, regardless of what you do. Chuck, I wouldn't use the term schizophrenic. I would look at this as the progression towards a homogenized way of sharing content online. All of the companies are eventually going to end up in the same place with the same model, I think, because they're all working to get our attention and keep us on their platform in the same ways. So what's working in one place gets adopted somewhere else, and then maybe that gets dropped later. But ultimately, I mean, look at where we are today, and the similarities between what I will call all the microblogging platforms are much greater than the differences. And there was a time when that really wasn't the case, and they will continue to get closer and closer to the same as we progress forward. and I totally get that I'm throwing a hot take on you without any warning, and there will be people that are going to be like, Jeff is completely wrong, and I will preemptively accept your apology because I am certain in this case I am right. All of our social media will eventually be it'll be the same overall experience no matter what platform you choose. It's just coming.
I'm not worried about the posts disappearing because Microsoft Recall will have them.
There you go.
So, gentlemen, I have to bow out, and I apologize to the the audience here in chat. Thank you guys very much for being here. If everything works the way it's supposed to, I'm going to leave, and this crew is going to continue with whatever they do after I'm gone, and I'll find out about it later. So please forgive me for whatever you're about to see.
Hey, Chuck, before you go, can you tell us where people can find you?
Can find me, sure. MacVoices.com. Where else? That's where you will find this discussion published a little bit later if you couldn't be with us live, and on all the socials as at Chuck Joyner. Guys, thanks so much for being here. I'll let you do your own outros as I exit stage left. Take care.
Bye.
Go away, Chuck. Come on. Now you're just leaving us hanging.
I'm trying.
Should I just bump you out? Chuck is gone.
Jeff Gamet is the host now. Look at that.
Holy crap. Holy crap. All right. Well, then, since apparently I've been named de facto host.
Underpants.
Underpants. Everyone give me an underpants.
Underpants.
Yeah, this is what happens when Chuck leaves and I'm suddenly the host. All right. Well, since we're supposed to wrap up anyhow, Web. Yes.
Are we going to After Dark? Is that what we're saying here? We're going to do our outros and then go after dark?
We're going to do outros and then After Dark. Pants completely optional, preferred that they're actually not happening. So with that, I will just get us through the where we can find each other based on where all of you are on my screen right now. And Dave, since you've been declared angel, where can people find you?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I am on the Mac Show, the British Tech Network on Fridays, here on Tuesdays, and I'm on Mastodon at DaveG65 and Mastodon.cloud.
Well, on behalf of Chuck, thank you for being here and being the professional one. Eric, where can people find you?
Well, there goes the professional part.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got the professional out of the way. Then there's the rest of us. And Eric, where can people find you?
Oh, wait.
Did you just pour the booze in your cup?
I guess it's not quite After Dark yet. Well, pause for a moment. I can be found on Mastodon at EA Bolden at techhub.social. Mondays, Vision Profiles with Marty, who will, I'm sure, do a much better description. And here on Tuesdays, except when Tuesday is a Wednesday. Otherwise, I'm outside looking for things to flap. The butterflies.
I feel like the description you gave me of when stuff happens is a lot like the instructions for playing Fizbin.
Oh, yeah. Except on Tuesdays, but
except on Tuesdays. Yeah. Hey, Marty, where can people find you?
Well, I closed my Twitter account this week because of the news. So you can find me Jencius at mastodon.social. I here on Tuesday, I'd say here on Tuesday nights, but it's Wednesday that we're recording. So, but usually here on Tuesday nights with MacVoices and Thursday nights with Dave Ginsburg on In Touch with iOS. You can find Eric and my stream on YouTube and the podcast associated with it at Vision Profiles on YouTube, and also one that I do at CFS Podcast. That's Circular Firing Squad, now on YouTube also.
Awesome. And Brian, where can people find you? By the way, nice tie.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You can find me, Brian, 8944 at mastodon.cloud. and throughout the week, listening to all of your podcasts as well.
Awesome. Web, before I ask you to tell us where people can find you, I just want to point out now that I am in complete control and power has gone to my head, I believe you are a master of black magic, and I spend so much of every episode watching your floating globe just spin. That's not a euphemism.
Yeah, that was a gift, and I for those of you who are on the video, you can see I'm having a problem with the green screen and kind of fading in and out here. So I got to fix some lighting to get here. But yeah, it's last week the globe came off of its axis, and so I had to interrupt during the show and get the world spinning properly again. So if there was any disturbance, it was mine. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, Web, where can people find you?
Well, since it's only going to last maybe for 24 hours, you'll find me on Threads. Actually, on all the socials, you can find me at Web Bixby, WEBBIXBY. But this week, I'm going to be promoting the Threads platform. So there you go.
Awesome. All right. Then I guess it's now my turn. So on the socials, I'm Jay Gamet pretty much everywhere, and I'm active right now on Mastodon and Instagram. And I haven't checked in 24 hours, so I don't know if I'm active on Threads. And then let's see, for socials. No, I just did socials. For podcasts, here on Tuesdays, except when it's Wednesday, we're MacVoices Live. And then on Thursdays on Dave's In Touch with iOS. And then on the British Tech Network, Thursdays for the Big Show, Fridays for the Mac Show. Then also Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore have a relatively new show called Retro Rewatch, where we watch shows that she's seen before but I haven't, and then talk about them. Currently, we're doing Stargate SG-1. So with that, on behalf of Chuck, everyone, thanks for being here. And holy crap, Chuck, what are you thinking? Leaving me unsupervised. Whatever happens, this is on you.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.